Good morning, friends. So today it's Wednesday, or it's going to be Wednesday when you watch this, and you are going to be listening to me read a nonfiction selection called Cold, Cold Science. It's on page 392 of your Journeys book, so you need to have that out and you need to be following along. You should also have in your folder that was sent home with you this paper right here. Okay, it has 4 sections in it, and each of the sections has numbers by it because that's the number of things that I want you to try and pay attention to and include as you hear about that section of the story, okay, or of the article. Each of the sections, one of them says information about accommodations or places to stay in Antarctica. The next section says information about the climate or weather patterns in Antarctica, which includes temperatures, wind, precipitation, which is rain and snowfall. On the bottom, it says information about the landscape, which means what would people who visit see? If I went to Colorado, for example, I would see snow-covered mountains and trees. What will I see when I'm in Antarctica? What does it look like? If you were to describe what people would see when they're there, what would you write? Okay, what would come, what do they tell you about in the article? Okay. And then the last box says information about wildlife in Antarctica. What kinds of animals would I see both in the sea and on the land? I want you to choose at least 3 to pay attention to and include lots of details about them in the brochure. This would be a huge attraction for a lot of visitors. People who would go to Antarctica would be really interested in the animals that they would see there. Okay, so the important thing is to fill this out while I'm reading and while I'm talking about these things, because you're going to use the information on here to do this assignment, the travel brochure. This is the other big white sheet of paper that's folded in thirds in your folder. You're going to create a pamphlet or a brochure that would tell people what it's like in Antarctica, and each of the sections that's on your notes has to be included in your brochure, and are here: the accommodations, climate, landscape, and wildlife. Okay, you have to have information and pictures. All of that is detailed here. You're going to have 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, to do this assignment using the information you got here and from which you collected as we read Cold, Cold Science, okay? So you're going to read the directions on here, and each panel or each section of your the folded up paper, you're gonna have a section that says accommodations. You're gonna talk about what it's gonna be like when they stay there, where would they stay, and what is that like, okay? If you need to have more than one section, like if accommodations, if you have so much information about it that you need to put it on 2 sections, that's fine. The cover, the very front part, is going to say something like Antarctica, a great place to visit, something like that, okay? So make sure you read this. If you have questions, you'll be able to get on Zoom and ask me questions. But I'm going to say, did you read this? And then I'm going to have you read it to me before I answer any questions for you. So make sure you read this before you jump on Zoom with questions. Okay? All right. So both of these texts are connected because they're both about Antarctica. But the one that we read earlier this week, or that I read to you, or you read by yourself, was a journal of a lady who had been there. Okay, so she wrote, and I believe I told you this in the videos, that it was a first-hand account, which means that it's a story told by somebody who actually experienced it. So if you experience something firsthand, it means it happened directly to you. Okay, so when I go on a trip somewhere and I tell you all about it, it's a first-hand account, okay? But then if somebody else, like you, tells somebody else about things you learned, say I went to Alaska and I told you about it, your information that you would give, that you would tell about Alaska, is not a first-hand account. It would be what's known as a second-hand account because you didn't actually experience it. Okay, so when I read Cold, Cold Science on page 392, starting on 392, it is informational text. It's all nonfiction. It's all true. And the author, his name is Dewey Badeau, and he didn't go to Antarctica. This is not a first-hand account. He did research. He read things by people who went to Antarctica, about scientific studies that have been done there, and then he put all that information together and wrote information about Antarctica, okay? So it's a second-hand account because it gives information that the author, the person who's writing it, didn't learn by experiencing it. They learned it by research, okay? All right, so on page 392, it says Cold, Cold Science. At Palmer Station in Antarctica, and that was mentioned in the 4 Months at the Bottom of the World Journal story, says, at Palmer Station in Antarctica, scientists live and work in a world of ice. A giant ice sheet that covers the continent helps scientists at Palmer Station understand an environment that doesn't exist anywhere else on Earth. Okay. Home away from home. That's the heading for that article, or for that section. If you notice up at the top, it says Palmer Station. Guys, this is accommodations, okay? This is like the only place that people stay down there. So this is what I mean by accommodations. Palmer Station is one of 3 bases in Antarctica operated by the United States. It is located on Anvers Island, just west of the Antarctic Peninsula in the northwestern part of the continent. Scientists at Palmer Station live at the base year-round and perform field studies in the surrounding environment. A field study is where they like go out into the wilderness and conduct experiments or make observations. One visiting writer, Kate Madden, said, "This town has a single purpose, and everyone here is part of it: scientific research on the Antarctic coastal ecosystem." The only thing they're doing there, what she means by this, the only thing they're doing there is science, okay? People don't go there to just hang out, all right? Turn the page. Okay, so that's your accommodations. Frozen sculptures, and there's a caption up by the picture up at the top. It says 90%, 9/10, okay, almost all of our planet's ice is found in Antarctica. Frozen sculptures. The unique features of the Antarctic landscape give the scientists at Palmer Station many frozen clues to use in their research. Antarctica is glacier country. A glacier is a mass of ice and snow formed on land over thousands of years. A glacier slowly moves across land due to gravity and its great weight. The Antarctic ice sheet, an enormous glacier, covers 98% of the continent, almost all, guys. 98 out of 100 parts, if you were to cut it into 100 parts, 98 of them are covered in this ice, okay? Covers 98% of the continent and contains approximately 5 million square miles of ice, averaging 7,000 feet thick. Okay, that's over a mile. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Okay, so the distance of 1 mile, this ice sheet is thicker than 1 mile long. Okay, the Antarctic ice sheet is the largest single mass of ice on Earth, and it contains about 70% of the Earth's fresh water. Nearly half of Antarctica's coastline is made up of thick floating ice called ice shelves. Ice shelves result from the Antarctic ice sheet's movement towards the coastline. They form where the ice sheet meets the water. Palmer Station is located near the Larsen Ice Shelf. Icebergs can be seen in the frigid waters near Antarctica's coast. Guys, this is all about landscape. This is all about the things that people would see. What would they see when they look outside? All of this is part of that. An iceberg is a large mass of floating ice broken off from a glacier or ice shelf. Icebergs can be the size of an automobile or a small country. An iceberg's movement is influenced or affected by ocean currents and winds, which is the way the ocean is moving, okay? Eventually, icebergs melt and disappear. Scientists at Palmer Station study how the Antarctic ice sheet moves and how the temperature of the ocean changes over time. They learn how changes to the ice sheet and ice shelves affect animals that live in Antarctica. The scientists' work also helps them understand changes in Earth's climate can impact the rest of the world. Okay, the caption down below that picture of an iceberg says, scientists at Palmer Station believe that many icebergs came from the Wilkins Ice Shelf when it broke apart in 2008. Okay, turn the page. Windiest, driest, coldest. What does that sound like it's describing? Weather. So when you're doing this, do you notice, and you can pause the video, right? You can pause the video and write down the things that you're hearing as you're hearing them. Make sure you're using your tools wisely, right? Okay, so we're on windiest, driest, coldest. This would be all about the weather, okay? Antarctica is a place of climate extremes. Extremes means like really, really one thing or really, really the other. Did you know that it is the windiest place on Earth? During a blizzard, the wind in Antarctica is so strong that it can change the shape of ice and rocks. The strongest winds are found along the coast of the continent and on the Antarctic Peninsula. And up in the caption, you see where the American flag is. It says the Antarctic winds can reach speeds of 185 miles per hour. I don't know if you remember about wind speeds when we talked about hurricanes. That's higher than hurricane wind speeds, okay? Antarctica may not be hot, but much of the continent is the driest place on Earth. It is a desert. Because the air is so cold and dry, it is hard for clouds to form and make rain or snow in the central part of the continent. Not only is Antarctica the world's driest desert, it is also the largest. I don't know if you know this, but deserts, you're qualified as a desert not based on temperature, but based on amount of precipitation, rainfall, things like that. So Antarctica is actually a desert, and it is the driest one on Earth. It gets the least amount of precipitation of anywhere on Earth. The temperature in Antarctica's interior during the winter can get as cold as negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what the little F means. However, in summer, the temperature along the Antarctic Peninsula can climb to almost 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like a day in September or October here. Like that's what the temperature could be like. Because the conditions in Antarctica can be so harsh, scientists are very busy there during the warmer summer season. During certain weeks in summer, the sun does not set at all. There is daylight, 24 hours a day. Remember, that's because the Earth is tilted at a certain angle, and as it's getting closest, when it's at its closest to the sun, that part of the Earth is actually positioned closest to the sun, and there would be no way, like even as it's rotating on its axis, that any part of it would be in like basically shadow, okay? The warm temperatures cause the ice along the coast to melt and can impact Antarctica's wildlife. Okay, now on page 397, here we go with wildlife, the part that everybody is most interested in. And if you notice, the next two pages are all about the wildlife. Okay, this picture of the pink on there, that is krill. If you look, it says a swarm of krill, which means a whole group of them. Zoologists are scientists who study wildlife from very small to very large. And you remember krill was mentioned before in the previous story. At Palmer Station, scientists measure temperatures on the coast and in the ocean. They also get information from satellites that orbit the Earth. This information helps zoologists learn how changes in climate affect the krill, seabirds, and other animals that make up Antarctica's ecosystem. Krill live in the seas surrounding Antarctica. Similar to shrimp in size and structure, an individual Antarctic krill is about 2 inches long. Okay, about that long, guys. Krill is an important source of food for much larger fish, birds, and mammals. Thousands of krill swim together in swarms, making it easy for whales, seals, and penguins to catch them. Dragonfish, cod, and ice fish live in the Southern Ocean, which surrounds Antarctica. These fish species mainly live at the bottom of the ocean and feed on krill and other creatures. Starfish, squid, and sea spiders live in the Southern Ocean as well. Turn the page, 398. There's a picture of an elephant seal and a humpback whale on this page. It says seals can be found relaxing in the cold waters of Antarctica. Of the many different types of seals in Antarctica, the elephant seal is the largest. A male elephant seal can weigh up to 8,000 pounds. That's 4 tons, guys. Many scientists believe that seals are most similar to otters and skunks. On the other hand, other scientists believe seals are more closely related to bears. So there's some disagreement about like how they behave and things like that. Seals are able to hold their breath for a long time while swimming underwater. It's because they're mammals. They have lungs. Some seals can swim up to 50 miles a day when they are hunting for krill, fish, and penguins. Didn't know they ate penguins, did you? Enormous whales live in the Southern Ocean too. Like other mammals, whales need air to live. Most mammals, such as seals, breathe through their noses and mouths. Whales, however, breathe through an opening on the top of their heads. Humpbacks, orcas, and many other types of whales can be seen in the icy seas of Antarctica. Orcas are killer whales, guys. Different kinds of seabirds call Antarctica home. They live and nest on Antarctica's shores and look for food in the water. The albatross is one kind of seabird that lives in Antarctica. It has a wingspan of 11 feet. Guys, that means if you turned it on its side and put one, like the tip of one wing on the bottom and held it up, it would actually be as tall approximately as our ceiling in our classroom, okay? Like that's how wide it is when it spreads its wings, making it the largest flying bird in the world. Penguins, another kind of seabird, live and nest in large groups. Unlike other seabirds, these black and white birds cannot fly. Penguins walk on land and swim in the Southern Ocean to look for food. At Palmer Station, scientists are very interested in penguins. These scientists study how the sun, atmosphere, which is the air around the planet, ocean, and food supply cause the penguin population to rise or fall. Because Antarctica is so isolated, which means like not visited by many people, scientists can focus on a single species and learn about how that species survives. Last page, page 400. Looking back into the future. So there's thinking about the past and the present and what's going to happen. Fossils discovered on the islands near the Arctic Peninsula have led many scientists to believe that Antarctica was once a much warmer place where small bird-like dinosaurs roamed the land. Fossils of ancient trees also suggest it was warm enough for flowers to bloom. Can you imagine Antarctica warm and sunny? Too much sun, of course, is a problem. Scientists have discovered a hole in the ozone layer in the atmosphere above Antarctica. The ozone layer is a gaseous shield that protects us from the sun's powerful rays. Without this protection, most life on Earth could not survive. To help shrink the ozone hole, governments in many countries are teaming up to decrease pollution. In time, scientists believe this will help solve the problem. The work that scientists do at Palmer Station allows people around the world to learn about our planet's climate, oceans, and animal life. By studying clues from the past and what is happening today, they also uncover information that helps us make important predictions about the future. Okay, and it's showing them taking, it says take an ice sample for their research. So they're like cutting out a piece of it to look at it and see what's happening in it or what happened in the past in it. Okay, so if you need to rewatch the video, reread, you need to have these parts filled out so that you can start on your brochure, and the directions are here. Like I said, if you get on and you ask me questions about it, which you're more than welcome to do, I'm also going to ask you to pull this out and read and tell me about which part of this you're not understanding, and I will be asking you to show me this so I can see what you wrote down. Okay, so make sure that you are doing your part to do your very best work. You have 3 days to do that brochure, today, tomorrow, and Friday. And so you need to make sure that you do your best work. You can use the information in here as well as some of the nonfiction information, like examples about like the penguins and stuff like that from Antarctic Journal. But I do want most of your information to come from this selection for this assignment, okay? All right, like I said, rewatch what you need to, pause the video, and write down stuff that you need. All right, I will see you soon. Bye.